Be at least as interested in your reactions as in the situation or person that causes you to react. Notice also how often your attention is in the past or future. Don't judge or analyse what you observe. Watch the thought. Feel the emotion. Observe the reaction. Don't make a personal problem out of them. You will then feel something more powerful than any of those things that you observe. The still. Observing presence itself behind the content of your mind. The silent watcher. We did it! We did it! Yes, you did. I think you only talked a couple of times, minuscules. But yes, there was lots of sounding because there was lots of triggers and lots of stuff you wanted to share, wasn't there? Yes! But we're just trying to read, aren't we, and manage our reactions, aren't we? Like the book says, aren't we? Yes! And I'm very proud of you. Well done. Thank you! We're very happy, excited that we managed it. Can we manage it again? We're stopping at the end of 48 and there's another squiggle, so let's do the same thing again. We embed that. And then there's a paragraph that we can do, and then we'll probably end at that title because that title says the insanity of psychological time, and I don't think it's very good for us to start talking about the insanity of psychological time where we've been. Really good nosness knows what that might trigger. Oh yes, we're live as well, aren't we? So yes, we'll probably stop at that, which is just over halfway down on page 48. So we can manage that, can't we? Yes, we can. Let's do some more neurological programming of this beautiful mind of ours to connect those dots, the neurological nodes. Because when we do it so fine. I think then it's going to say we do so in body. This is that's the. So we uploaded. Just like kind of happened, all the there's 18 videos. They were taken one down because one of them has conversations with the staff in there and other things which we don't think is very appropriate, so we took that one down. So there's only 17 videos in there now on our YouTube channel, and we've been watching some of them back, and everything that we say and that we're doing is so knowledgeable. Yes, it's presented quite manically, but one of our things to overcome the fear is we've known that fear vibrates or is measured similarly, can't say that, as excitement. And so for us not to have gone into the fear, into the darkness, we would pretend it was excitement. But there's a lot of us in here. There's a hell of a lot of us in here. And so therefore it would present itself as manic. Because if you've got like a classroom full of 30 kids and they're all really excited, it's manic. But they're not all individually manic. There's just a lot of them. And so that's what we were doing. Because if we went into the darkness, we would have fallen. And we would have fallen down into our suicide or into something else that's not pleasant. So that was our way of coping with our knowledge at the time, because we didn't have the language to say what was going on. We didn't have the language to do what we needed. And all this out loud reading, all the watching of the tarot readers, because we're making our cider, our lemon and honey here, because we've lost all, because we lost, but we had to let go of. It's whether we let go of them, whether they let go of us, whatever the reason, it was for the bigger picture that it had to be done for everyone's highest good. Because since we were attuned to being a Reiki master in like 2014, it's always been about everyone's highest good. And we've been on this self-awareness journey and self-healing journey since we were 18 when we first overdosed, so that's 22 years. And we have an absolute mindful of knowledge inside here. It's just split between lots of different personalities and people. And that isn't just something in the mind that's made up. It's something that's ingrained and embedded in the connective tissue, in the fascia, on a somatic level. So when someone says it's psychosomatic, I'm guessing The psychosomatic is the impact of the mind, but the somatic is in the body, on the body. So when someone thinks it's the impact of the mind on the body, it's like not real, one's making it up, especially if you're a therapist and you don't believe in MPD or something like that. But if it's something that's been developed before the actual age that they believe a personality is to have been developed at 6 years old, then it's in your connective tissue, it's in your fascia. And that's what holds all your the frequencies of all the emotions, and all the traumas, be it a physical trauma, a sexual trauma, a mental trauma, emotional trauma, because they're all your different bodies. If you know chakras, red, orange, yellow, green, blue. Red's your root chakra, orange your second sacral chakra, your sexual energy. Red's your root, your foundation, and your coccyx. Your solar plexus, your empowerment, is your rib cage. Your heart is green, and that's yellow, by the way. Your heart's green. Thymus is really important. That's not in the basic ones, so we won't go there. And your throat's blue. Now, all physical manifestations of ailments and disease only manifest in the red, orange, yellow, the physical chakras. Form of expression and using one's voice obviously comes from, well, not obviously, but it comes from the blue, the throat chakra, communication. And then your heart chakra, green. So if you've been damaged and had traumas in all of these bodies, which we have, because I've learned from watching people and doing the meditations that emotion, when we hit emotion, it's the sign of hitting our truth. And if that emotion is a good emotion, then it's a pleasant, harmonic truth. But if it's a perceived bad emotion, then we've reached the dissonance that needs clearing in the tubes, because we're a tubular body. And that's our main gift, this host body, Neve Deborah Coleman, soon to be Zanoni Snowflake Passau, so that I can use I, because we're changing our frequency. And all the personalities. So each personality depends. See, we don't really like talking about it as language. First label that we found out we had, which made so much sense, was processing language disorder at 19. And it was terrifying getting that. I mean, I don't have many memories, but I remember feelings and strongly energy feelings. And certain phrases, like, I mean, God, there's a moose loose about this hoose. Oi, idiot, dime bar. Crunchy on the inside, soft on the outside. Have you got a light boy, Ovaltine light boy? And there's like little phrases like this, and there's even phrases between friends and stuff. So like once we lost a friend, or it was the starting process of losing a friend, because she used our memory against us. And actually, yeah, our memory doesn't serve us, but if we've had an experience that has a very strong emotional attachment to it, whereas if it involves a friend that we're close to, then we will remember that situation, even if the rest of it's not good. So there's certain things that, are just adamant, and one just knows. So the average person, and we're so not average and never have been, we've had artwork ripped up by teachers. We took extra maths homework home when we were 7 years old. We always used to fall asleep in assembly, even right from a kid, so we've always slept a lot. You're not your typical person. We're some smart-ass soul that's wanted to tick off many lives in one. So processing language disorder is a really rare type of dyslexia, and that guy said, you're a genius. If I wanted anyone to do anything, I'd get you to do it, because you just watch, you observe, and you can generally do. Now that didn't make sense to me, because I've always found theoretical education really hard, 200% effort, come out with like B's or C's if you're lucky. I mean, I did rebel up against science at school, because my father's a science teacher, and still came out with 2 B's, so that's pretty good, really. And we got an A in maths and an A in art, which is left and right hand side of the brain. So we've always had capability of using left and right hand side of the brain, and that's because of the DID, which is the extreme end of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's early childhood, where it can, I don't know when it happens, but this is the information that we've picked up that we believe to be true. So whether it's true by other people or not, it's true for us because it resonates. And it's an early childhood, genius coping mechanism of early childhood trauma. Now, we're not going to talk about all our traumas, but one of our main traumas is our mum found washed up on a beach 3 days after she died. And I've read the last 4 months of her diary, and we think it's like I believe it's suspected suicide. I believe she had some kind of emotional personality disorders as well. And then there's more stuff that's happened, sexual molestation and things. So we've split up to be able to cope with the trauma. Now, watching the videos back, if we've been doing this self-awareness journey and this self-healing journey since 18, starting the conscious mind and then going into the body, which is the subconscious mind, and going back and forth. And then, there comes a point where stuff really seriously needs to be cleared. And we started doing yoga at the age of 28. But a few months after we returned from cycling John O'Groats to Land's End, because for about 3 months, so I don't know, maybe it's 6 months, I don't know, it's like 3 to 6 months, getting in and out of the car, sitting on the toilet seat, our knees were fucking agony. We did it in 16 days, just me and my friend, with all our luggage. And on the one day off, we climbed Ben Nevis. We thought it would be good to use a different set of muscle groups. Now, that took us back to our injuries at Glastonbury in our late teens, when we just hurt a groin and ended up on crutches for the weekend. And yeah, I didn't think I'd make it to the top. So she went on to the top, and I was in agony already going up. And then it was the whole mind over matter type thing. And we've got a bloody strong mind. Of course we have. We've got however many people inside this one body. And when one gets tired, it just switches on to another and switches on to another. But the body can only take so much until the body gets exhausted. Anyway, we almost got to the top, and then there was no, we've got to do it. We'll be so annoyed with ourselves if we don't. And we managed it to the top. And oh my God, fuck me, coming down was even sorer on the knees and the ankles. So it's the groin going up and knees and ankles coming down. But anyway, we made the John O'Groats to Land's End bike ride, but everything physically started really falling apart. So I started yoga. 4 years into yoga, started the Iyengar yoga teacher training, 2-year course, one of the hardest in the world, and we did almost 4 years of it. Now, knew it would be, we were going to do our accountancy course, AAT, and we went to a thing there and just had to do it, and I knew it would be the hardest thing ever to do. Because it really gets the truth of one's inner being, one's core. And again, like everything else, so much effort, put it in. Certain pains, physical pain started easing, and then others got worse. Was great at the teaching bit, not at the personal practice. But when it actually came to the exam, and we sent an email, because we sprained our rib 2 days before the yoga assessment, the exam. We were relaxing over a bolster, because this is what happens with an EDS body. We were relaxing over a bolster, and don't get any or maybe it's a combination of the DID and the EDS body. Don't get any, any notice, because there's no proprioception in an EDS body, really, of where your knee is in time and space. You have to actually touch it, or you have to touch something to make those muscles activate. So yeah, we're relaxing over the bolster, then suddenly sprained rib. So I already had the remnants. I had protruding discs in my lower back going onto the sciatic nerve on the left and the right, torn SI joint, torn hamstring, damaged coccyx, and all this twisting in the sacrum, pelvis and sacrum happened when I was 15 from a horse accident. Always suffered bad knees from a young age, weak ankles, was always twisting my ankles, and then the broken collarbone, because the reason, our knees were hurting when we come back from the bike ride of John O'Groats to Land's End, but we were meant to do the bike ride of John O'Groats to Land's End 2 months before. It looked like I was riding a horse from behind, apparently, with all the stuff we took. Never been good at travelling light. So 2 months before I broke collarbone. There's nothing they can do about the collarbone. And it was in Falmouth, so we went to the Falmouth hospital, and they didn't tell me not to lay down or anything. So we lay down the first week and then displaced it, because it was a perfect break. So there's the collarbone injury as well, which is quite meg on this. We also think our head injury, we had when we were 11, we'd had a massive head injury when we were 11. It's a pretty big scar, it's about that. That looks pretty huge. 2 inches, maybe. And that was a horrific experience again. All these experiences of the systems and doctors and nurses and hospitals and police and teachers, they've all hurt this hypersensitive body and mind. And so therefore, they've been pushed away and we've done everything on our own. And we also discovered we were autistic. Not when we were younger. It's the processing language disorder was when we were 19. The autism was after the seizures, so probably in the last 3 years ago or something. And we're 40 now, so 19 was 21 years ago. So with all those injuries, we did say to the yoga assessment people, I'm not sure if we exactly knew our needs and if we specified and said, can we do it over 2 days? Because it's a really long day, but they hold them over 2 days. So if we'd done one in the morning, the teaching practice in the morning, or a personal practice in the morning, and then the next day we'd done the teaching practice, or the next afternoon we'd done the teaching practice, we'd have had a whole almost 24 hours off to recharge the body. But anyway, we failed that, but that's okay, because we did it because we were doing it to become our own teacher and our own student, and we'd said these little phrases before. So we've always been really in touch with our intuition. It's just the alters have had to keep the conscious eyes that are working as a team in denial of the DID because the conscious mind couldn't cope with it. So there's always a few of them functioning at once to keep it in denial from the conscious eye that's always been aware and trying to find myself, trying to work out why we do these patterns, why we do that, why we do this, understanding why our memory doesn't function properly, understand why we dissociate and get these blackouts and all kinds of things. We've got the language for it now, but we didn't have the language before. So we sidetracked. We were coming on here because we were watching that video back. We started the yoga, like I said. We did all that thingy. So basically, we've got a beautiful mind with so much information. There's a lot of us in here, so it gets presented as manic when we turn the fear into excitement to manage that, which is what people do advise. Some people do advise you to do. There's just a hell of a lot of us in here, so it presents as manic. That was the start of this video. The video that was going on in it is the first live one that we did out of the psych ward, because the alternate personality started reading the books and started doing live recordings in the psych ward. And this I've realised through Facebook and through social media, and this is the way that they've been showing us that we need to record, get our information out, watch it back, and it happens to watch back when I don't know, just most randomness of moments. And then more information goes. It's the constructive feedback loop of information. So stuff comes out of the senses, and then we watch it back and it goes in other senses, and then new pathways are constructed, old pathways are embedded and strengthened, and some pathways that don't serve then are broken. The pruning of the neurons when one sleeps, for instance. So we didn't have the language base, we didn't know what we needed, so we couldn't ask for help before the psych ward experience. And the ways that we had asked for help and whatever, and the ways people had given us help just proved harmful, basically. So everything got cut off until it was just us. Now, if anyone knows about Bruce Lipton and epigenetics and the autonomic nervous system, then the body starts dying if it doesn't have any connection to people or things. Or people to believe in them. And I didn't have self-love. I didn't have self-belief. And it was the end of 2015. It was suddenly, I actually managed to pay to get this, EDS popped up somewhere. And it was like, oh my God, that just for the first time ever, I think we could tick off 95% of the stuff on there and be like, that's us. And finally, after 35 years, I mean, we've suffered pain all our life, but I suppose it was teenage years, so maybe 25 years, it's there's an explanation to why we're in so much physical pain. We're not making this up. Whether other people think we're making this up or not, it doesn't matter. We're not making this up. We're going to go and get this outside test done by these private people to see if we do actually have EDS or not, because it will just answer so many things. And we still didn't have the strength to trust ourselves in it. And one tends to need the labels to gain understanding for themselves, but also, I suppose, for others as well to understand them a bit. So we went and got this private test done. And yeah, we had Ehlers-Danlos syndrome type 3, we had fibromyalgia, postural orthotic trachea syndrome, POTS, which is to do with your fainting and the pressure. And there might have been a couple of other things written down there. We haven't started looking back all of that stuff yet because it causes a lot of stress. And basically, the whole point has been to minimise stress, because it's the extra stress, the constantly functioning on the fight, flight, freeze mode, of which we've always been a freezer. That's just been exhausting us and draining us. So we got the test done, and it turned out we were, and that was the end of November 2015. I was starting to be able to not drive. I mean, we've travelled the world. When I was 16, I went to Romania to help out in a physically handicapped boys' orphanage. End of 2013, deployed out to the Philippines when Typhoon Haiyan struck as a humanitarian aid worker. Converted a 3.5-ton Box-Luton van into a self-converted van, and lived in it, and then had my cat in it while I was a bookkeeper. We have done so much in our life to be proud of that's just not fitted in the box, even though we've tried to fit in the box, but we've tried to fit in the box and do things how one's meant to do it according to the systems, but never been able to. But then always accommodated our needs in this subconscious way, like building the van and living in it, even though we're a bookkeeper, to fit the way we cope with things, which is on our own, because that's all we know how to do, which is like the autism, and due to our traumatic childhood experiences and just being let down by every role model and authoritative figure going. But you see, that's okay in the end, because we were brought up that life's a struggle and one's meant to struggle. And life is a struggle. It's a lot harder living than dying. But the first breath we take is when we're born, and the last breath we let out is when we die. But it's the physical body that's dying, it's not the consciousness that's dying. And since having the EDS, discovering I had the EDS, changing the pattern of realising I had a certain relationship with my father, and other people, was like, we're only having adult-to-adult relationships now to get out of these game patterns. And then I couldn't drive the van anymore, so I became homeless, but luckily I had places to live and was in nature. But everything just kept going downhill. I think it was in April, which is the month my mum died. My beautiful cat Dakota, that lived with me in my van, used to follow us around everywhere. He died, passed over. He went missing at the start of the week, and on a Sunday night. Well, he didn't go missing. On Sunday night, we left him where we spend a lot of time, because that's what we used to do all the time. That was our relationship, and then we'd go back and get him. I went back to get him, of course. He wasn't there. And then that was a Sunday night. The following Wednesday, we had our first appointment in Red Roof with the benefits people to go on benefits. And that's then when this altar came out, and it was just like, we can't do this, and the suicide stuff came out, so they had to cut it down for protocol and legal purposes, I suppose. And then that Friday, Dakota still hadn't come, so basically went, set up camp in the woods, and was like, going to stay in the woods until we find Dakota. And then the next day, he was just meters away and he'd passed, and our friends found him and brought him to us, and we just shut down, and we were in the woods for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, a week? I get confused. I know there was one period which was 1 week and one period which was 2 weeks. If 2 weeks came out, so I'm going to trust that, because that's what came out. We went to the doctors. Friends were great, and they came down and helped us how they could. We went to the doctors and got put on medication. At the end of 2015, after we found out that we'd been diagnosed with EDS, we'd also had this ayahuasca journey planned. And the ayahuasca journey was just incredible for our healing. Because no matter what we did with the yoga, no matter what we did with the breath work, whenever it got down to, or the pelvis and the psoas muscle is what holds all fear and trauma and anxiety as well. And as your psoas muscle is the first muscle to wake up as a baby, your hip flexors. It takes 4 times more energy to use your thumb than your psoas muscle, but your psoas muscle does so much more. The pelvis, it was just pain, excruciating pain, and one can't live with physical pain their whole life that much. It just takes over and it's too much. And that's where the DID's been lucky, because each altar holds its pain, but each altar belongs to a certain system or network in the body of fascia trains. So So once one fascia train or network system got tired, it would go on to another, it would go on to another. The lungs were split up into lots of different networks to go with each altar. The heart was too. So the next morning after the ayahuasca, I mean, it was horrific, the ayahuasca journey, absolutely horrific. It felt like my whole body was being burrowed in and out of by zillions and zillions of like things. And we were just pretty much frozen, hands on stomach, because we just felt so sick and needed to be sick but couldn't be sick, which makes sense now because an EDS body struggles with being sick, and we probably cut off from that a long time ago because we did used to be a bit bulimic when we were younger. We've done the whole not eating, we've done the making ourselves sick, we've tried every avenue from the body dysmorphics and the being overweight. We were overweight up till the age of about 15. We were like 13.5 stone at the age of 13. And we lost 4 stone in 3 months or something. And generally kept on top of it since then. Never going above 12.5 really. And then if it does get up to 12, we like focus on down with exercise and eating food. But when the pain started, we couldn't do the exercise. We couldn't do the walking. Even the yoga, like after the yoga was too much because the yoga broke us because we weren't acknowledging the pain. We were just doing what we felt we had to do, and we were working so hard. I mean, we were doing our yoga, still had a month left of our yoga teacher training. We were doing our sound healing teacher training. We were doing our bookkeeping and accounts to get money in. We were also doing a therapist, doing Reiki and nerve touch toe massage. And then we just started a course at Cornwall College doing complementary therapies of reflexology, Swedish massage, aromatherapy, and your AMP. There's a crazy amount of stuff to be doing, but we were desperate. So many altars had got to their drainage point, the point of like, we just need to stop now. We can't do anymore. We want to die. We don't want to be in this life. And that was just kept being the narrative and kept being the narrative. And one cannot change the narrative that easy when it's embedded into the connective tissue, into the fascia of the body. Otherwise, there wouldn't be loads of people out there suffering with PTSD like they do. So yeah, we always wanted, we've met some Tibetan friends, and we always wanted to, we could never remember Om Namah Shivaya, that mantra. And when we were in this ayahuasca journey, the amount of bombardment of belief systems was just crazy. It was just never ending. But of course, it's not just ours, it's our parents, it's everyone around us that we've encountered. Because if someone's apathic and open, they take on everyone else's stuff and it hooks on. If they don't naturally know how to clear it in the body, if the body doesn't naturally clear it because the body's not a healthy functioning body to start with. And we've had this all our life. It's not something that just appeared. We were struggling our mummy's tummy apparently. We didn't eat when we were a kid. So the EDS has affected us our whole life. It just wasn't recognised because our father had a hard enough job as it was doing things, and he had a pretty warped perception on life as it was growing up in Southern Ireland and in strict Catholicness and stuff. And being a male, it's easier for males to cope with, but being a female and autistic and hypersensitive, we found our way of coping, and our way of coping was to make up lots of people, split off into personalities, and be a people pleaser, and just be whatever the other person needed us to be. And there's been certain circumstances which has made that the case, but also when one is open and sensitive and an empath and feels other people's energies, if someone's feeling shit and going through a lot of trauma, then you're going to feel shit and be going through that trauma as well because you're feeling them. And if you don't have anyone around you to teach you how to not take that on board or to tell you what that is or explain it, then that just becomes a habit and a pattern, especially if it's developed from a childhood, really early childhood. So lots of sidetracking here, but this is good because what we wanted to portray was it came out manic on that video at the start, but the actual information that is contained in the video that comes out is so knowledgeable, so crucial and so important, and us expressing how we know at the time with the language we know at the time through all the different people talking at once, what's going on for us. Now, it's the Sound Healing Summit this week, and we missed the Monday and Tuesday, but we've started our Qigong, we've been doing our yoga little retreats, we've been doing so much body work, because knowledge is one thing, but that's knowledge in the mind. Knowledge doesn't become wisdom until one embodies the knowledge and integrates it into the body through breath, through movement, through action. So when one manifests, you can manifest through words and doing these rituals, but unless one actually takes action and does things in the body that involves the body and the breath, then manifestation isn't going to come into play, because it's all to do with the deepest belief systems we hold, which is our subconscious programming as a child. So we've only watched like the whole day Tuesday. No, we've watched Tuesday back, and we're going to do Monday today. And it's on in the evening, so we'll do Wednesday tonight, and then we'll do Thursday, because it's a 48-hour replay. And it's amazing. No ginger in it again. Oh yeah, because we had the grate, and we're not in a great way. We didn't have any pre-grated in the freezer. So, like we keep saying, it's like, let's start the Gandhi quantum ripple effect. Be the change you want to see in the world. Yeah, why did you do that? We've just completely lost what we were talking about. Information in the videos. We connected in to be present to the pain and the ginger. Sound Healing Summit, that was it. So yes, Gandhi quantum ripple effects. And we always say about how we live in these most amazing bioorganic computers. Now, these bodies are the most amazing bioorganic computers. And they have the most innate healing capacities. And that is what we're showing and what we're sharing, because we've been doing this from all the different people and all the different bodies. And now it's come to a point where it all needs to integrate and it all needs to connect. And we say on that video, I mean, it's very apparent in that video, but we were using the Fibonacci sequence or the pulse resets of like the tapping and stuff, 1, 1, 1, 2, and different parts of the brain get tapped because it jars it. We got that from Gaia TV, but then we had majorly adapted it ourselves. We used that in our mouth with the mouth yoga, but also our tongue on each of the teeth, because each tooth is like a wire going down to a network in the body on the linear plane, but then that takes onto the surface plane to be a fascia train. So you've got the mouth one yoga, the meridians, the Chinese, you've got all the different aspects, but it's the incantations, the words, the language, of which we've struggled with for a long time because of our dyslexia, the processing language disorder that happened when we were 19. I think we were talking about that before and then got sidetracked. So, and we've always been backwards. If we don't get something explained to us backwards, and we'll get it. Now, the way we use our language and the words that we use and the connotation of them, so maximum output, minimum effort, is great, but minimum effort still implies smallness and a lot of effort, even though you've got the first bit to it. And for the subconscious to listen, and this is what manifestation involves, then the language needs to be all present tense and all positive connotation. So therefore, maximum output, maximum ease. Because then if you break it down into each word, ease, easy, maximum, maximum, output, good output, maximum, again, they're all good words. So my body, because the body is the right hemisphere brain, the 95% of us, has been showing me throughout my life, like everyone's does, through these different actions of what we need to know. But due to a multitude of reasons of the labels and the traumas and the experiences, we've not been able to hear it. We've not been able to hear the body and what it's saying. And then we've been on the self-development and self-healing and self-awareness for so long that it got to the point where we needed to know what was going on. So the fact that we did the ayahuasca journey 10 months before we started medication was the whole planning of the subconscious and the collective energies, so that, because the EDS, so you've got the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, the gift of the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and the fruits of the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is it's connective tissue disorder, it's the fascia. It's, so if you were to put it into easy terminology, the roads that carry the cars and the big trucks that carry the stuff to all the shops, the connective tissue is the highways, the roads that are built for stuff to travel down. So if that's not functioning properly, then stuff, you can't get the vitamins go into the minerals carry the vitamins down the fascia. So you've got the trucks carrying the goods in the trucks to take to the shops. So if you don't have the roads, none of it can work. Then we've been using diatomaceous earth to heal that. But that's what carries it's the nervous system. It carries the electromagnetic energy, the electromagnetic signals, information, which comes from the brain to go to the body to tell it what to do. Now, before that, what precedes that is the electrochemical signals that go from your gut brain to tell your brain what to do, for your brain to tell your body what to do through the nervous system. So that's the electrochemical energy that goes up through your circulatory system. And that's all to do with breath and oxygen, and that's why your breath connects your mind to your body. So there's this complete constant figure-8 loop back and forth between the two that are going on. Now, it's the heart, I'm pretty sure, when you're born, when you're in the stomach, it's the heart that's developed before the brain. So therefore, the heart has priority. So your circulatory system, your breath, your oxygen is what comes over everything else. So your nervous system can fail, but you can bring your nervous system back up again with the breath, with the oxygen, because that's what precedes it. And every cell, every organism needs oxygen to live. So it's about getting as much oxygen in the body as possible with long, deep, slow breaths. But we haven't been able to do that. So we went on to that again because we were trying to explain. So that's the EDS. The fibromyalgia is amazing because the fibromyalgia basically makes new pathways. So if there's a pathway that's blocked, or there's a road blocked, a fibromyalgia come out and make a new road, which is fantastic. Rather than just getting blocked and shut down and getting into complete inertia, is it, when it's stopped and you can't do anything or go anywhere? Fibromyalgia comes along and goes, that's okay, we'll come along and make a new road for you. So it's great. You keep moving, you can keep doing stuff. But it's not so great because then you have heaps more pain, because you've got the pain of the blockage of the road that's not working, and then you've got the pain of the new road being built, the new pathway being built. So that's the fibromyalgia. So in the body, with the DID, because the DID separates the brain into different networks. So normally an average brain's got your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. With a DID brain, with lots of people and personalities, you've got lots of brains in the one brain, and each one of those brains has its subconscious and has its conscious mind. But each of those one brain has its own little network and system in the body of pathways and highways, etc. So the body then gets separated off. So the fibromyalgia and the EDS and the DID has separated off the body so that all the toxins, because of the hypersensitivity, toxins can be in food, emotions, chemical, sexual, it depends which body, which frequency spectrum, which body you're working in, to what the toxin is, what you call it. But on a chemical level, on a physical level, my body separated itself off, so it made like this sac. And I'm not sure if it's in the guts or if it's in the stomach, because our development hasn't, we haven't got to that area yet. The subconscious knows, but the conscious eye doesn't know. But it separated off this sac that hold the toxins. So when we did the ayahuasca journey, because you're not meant to be on medication and take any medication with the ayahuasca, and we'd never taken medication our whole life, really. We'd just been recreational drug user. It separated off into this sac. So even though I started the medication 10 months after I did the ayahuasca journey, there was a reaction between the ayahuasca that was left in the body in this sac and the medication, because that needed to happen to give us these horrific 2 4 to 5 hour seizures that then left us in and out of all these personalities, regressed like a baby, incapable of using the body, to show us we had DID, because it's the biggest of denials going, and we needed waking up to that we had it so that we could start this program, so we could put all the body back together again. So the morning after the ayahuasca journey, because we didn't finish it off, it was like the words that came out, because we because of our processing language disorder and a dyslexia, we're a parrot and we mimic words, and we have to look for the positive phrases to go with it. And if you haven't seen anything before or heard an expression before, then we don't have to get the positive bit to go with it. So we were laying there and it says, I'm finally able to admit defeat. What on earth was I able to admit defeat on? And then the lady goes, you think the word you're looking for is surrender? So yeah, I think it was the word we were looking for, is I'm finally able to surrender what it is, to surrender to the present moment. I'm not kidding. The excruciating pain down in our pelvis and our lower back. Like, if you think of it as the most thickest, solid, black, dark wall that no matter what you do, you're just not going to be able to penetrate through this. The ayahuasca came along and drilled loads of holes through this thick, solid blackness so that the light energy or the light could pass through it and slowly start corroding it down over time. So that's will be 5 years ago in December. So it's like just under 5 years ago, 4 3/4 years ago. And then 10 months later, the medication started. Then kept getting put on more medication because we'd had it. We wanted to die. Everything was just, we'd hit rock bottom. We didn't want to be here. It was all too much. We manifested a bungalow, a nice place to be in. We manifested one of the bungalows that we wanted to get in. We got it. We've created a beautiful space here now. A couple of weeks before the seizures happened, I'd said to a couple of friends, the seizures, something big's going to happen. It's going to be to debilitate us, but I didn't know what. And then the seizures happened. Now, we have something very special in us to do with energy and the way we feel energy that we give people there first. Our chiropractor has never felt energy because you can't see it. You can't, as a physical form. She felt it as a golf ball 2 inches out from our scar and had to manipulate it and squeeze it. Our sound healing teacher and therapist that used to kind of come round, she speaks this language sometimes when she sings. We interacted and had a conversation. I now know that that's actually called, the phrase for it, they call it light language. And we actually had a conversation and she'd never had a conversation in that way before. So we give people their first experiences at something they've never experienced before. And we have this, and someone else used to do Reiki, and that's very connected to the energies. We'd be like too much for him sometimes when we're doing Reiki and other things. But we could never feel it. We were so cut off from it. But our energy and the way we deal with energy is strong, and it's not in the conventional way. We don't feel our body as in matter. We feel our body as in the electromagnetic rainbow threads. The thin ones, which are the nasal breathing, and the big ones, which are the mouth breathing. And you've got the red pathways of the toroidal flow, or there's many of them in many of them. Which goes to your root chakra functioning systems, and you've got your orange that goes to your sacral chakra and all those functioning systems, and solar plexus, and so on and so on. And that is literally what we feel. We feel those threads and the movement of that because we don't have energy in us. We live in an electric universe, and the energy in this electric universe is going around us all the time. Now, how that energy that's going around us, through us, up us, down us, depending which elemental you call it. If it's fire element, then it's the energy going up. If it's the water elemental of consciousness, it's the going down. If it's the wind elemental of consciousness, then it's spinning round, and that's created with the lungs. So how this energy passes around us and through us, which is consciousness at the end of the day, depends on the frequencies of the matter body that we inhabit and how that body resonates then with the frequencies around it. So if we've had a lot of trauma from our past generations, for instance, our stepmom's grandmother or something, was one of the first women to be stoned to death to do with all Hitler and the Jews and stuff. So if there's a lot of that in your genetic makeup, then what you resonate will be other frequencies that are perceived bad and that lower vibration and of that trauma in the electric universe of darkness that will hook onto you. And if you've got a good clearing system, it won't hook on and you can clear it off. If you haven't, and you're aware, and you're very present, you'll feel it and there'll be chaos that goes on. If you don't have a good clearing system but you're not aware and you suppress things and you're in denial, it will come in, it'll attach onto you. You won't be that aware, you'll feel a bit out of sorts, but it will eat you away inside basically, and then cause injuries and ailments and what have you. So it's about changing the vibration and the frequency of the body as a whole, but the individual parts. Now the woman feminine, the yin energies is the receptive, the receiving, the whole. The masculine energy, the male, the yang, thinks in a part. So all the parts make up the whole. but it's good to see the big picture to get to the parts, but you need to look at the part individually, but you also need to look at the part as a whole functioning with the other systems to work in symbiosis. So sidetracked heaps again, but obviously all of this information that's coming out is information that we need to watch back to help us as well. But we've always done maximum output, minimum effort, and we've wanted to help others and inspire others. So the Alters have created a live self-healing reality show so that not only and plus, you know, we've tried other modalities of it and it hasn't worked. For years we've been wanting to record and do this and do that, but we can never find what we've done or where we've put it. Whereas if it's all on Facebook, it's easy to go back to and it's easy to find. And whether it's on our personal page or our Shinto self-empowerment page means two different things as well. I'm not hugely sure of what that is yet, but it does mean different things. But it's all there then, because there's so many people out there feeding you information, and they feel sometimes that they're feeding it to you for the right reason, and they're selling it to you, and they're selling it to you for the right reason. But that's because not many people out there Mercury time, the mind. Not that many people out there are that connected to their body, so they feel like they're speaking a complete unconditional heartfelt truth, but because they fully don't know their own truth, because they're in lots of denial about themselves, because if they just work in the mind and they don't have the heart and the other bodies, if someone is fully connected to their heart and their body, they'll be able to use their body and control their body in ways that just, you know, when you watch a dancer, when you watch someone that's really good at yoga, when you watch these people that have the balls on their hand and they can do the ball down the arm and across, all these people have great mind-body connections. So a lot of people that are always in the mind, always doing academic stuff and this, they don't have that body awareness and that body connection. But it's not that they're lying to you consciously, they're lying to you subconsciously, because they're lying to themselves. And I can say that, we can say that, because DID is the biggest of denials going. And when people struggle in something and they overcome it, they become really good at it. So we've got the dyslexia and the process language disorder. So we're becoming really good at understanding language, understanding words. And that's it, getting back to the film again, because this is all kind of functioning at once, but presenting it as one person. So that's why there's lots of sidetracking. But we spell the words out loud, and then we'll say the word or the phrase, sentence, and then we'll spell it out loud, and then we'll say it backwards. And when we say it backwards, it works amazing for us. It unwinds stuff in the head. And then when you say it backwards, it ends on a certain syllable or a certain sound, and that sounds what's needed to be said at the end. So for instance, 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 S-O-F-O-R, S-O-F-O-R, O-S-R-A-F, O-S-R-A-F, R-A-F, O-S, R-A-F, O-S, Raf-os, 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 so far, so far, so far, Raf-off, so Raf-off, Raf-os is so far backwards. And then instance, and when you do it into song and mantra and words helps the cellular structure of the brain so much more. So instance, I-N-S-T-A-I-N-S-T-A-A-N, I-N-S-T-A-I-N, S-T-A-N-C-E-I-N-S-T-A-N-C-E, E-C-N-A-T-S-N-I, Ekna to snee, Ekna to snee, nee, nee, E. So I don't know if all that spelling happened right or not, because I've never done it so presently, consciously thinking about it. But that was instance. So that was the mantra, and the E sound coming from instance being spout forward, sung spout forward to break down the syllables, reversing it so that you spell it backwards, then saying it backwards, and the mantra or the sound that will produce the maximum output, maximum ease for healing of the bioorganic computer at that moment is the last syllable, the last sound, which in that one was E. So what we've learned from this is basically if there's any situation and anxiety comes up, and that, you know, be aware of the language that comes out of your mouth, what words come out of your mouth. And the word that comes out of your mouth that you find hardest to say, you might not even be able to say it, that makes you feel whatever in your body, spell it backwards, say it backwards, sing it, and just then say that. And when you say it backwards, you see, we learned ages ago that it's so much really good to listen to music and meditate, but when you're listening to all these mantras in Sanskrit that you don't know the words of, it's even better, because as soon as one understands the language that's been conveyed, the conscious mind gets involved. The conscious mind's 5% of us. So if we want a maximum output, maximum ease, we have to tap into the subconscious, but tapping into the subconscious is really hard. So when you're listening to a language that you don't understand consciously, it's having so much more of an impact on you subconsciously, because your subconscious knows it. You just don't know it consciously, because consciously, if we knew everything your subconscious knew, we would be a lot more than 5% in the conscious mind. So therefore, that's why saying it backwards turns into a language that your conscious mind doesn't know, so it has a greater impact of healing on the body. Now, to sum this up and go now, because this has been really long. We didn't expect it to be so long, but we never do, but that's always the case because there's so many of us, and there's obviously a lot of information that needs to be got out, is that the psych ward gave us the most horrific experience, but it gave us self-belief and it gave us self-love. And made us realise, because we have the experience, we have to have that physical experience of horrificness happen, because that's always been us, to actually realise, fuck yeah, we've converted our own van and lived in it, we've travelled like most of the world, being a girl on our own, we've been a humanitarian aid worker with a couple of times, you know, we've done this, we've done that. But yeah, it's like, you know, why such lack of self-worthiness? Why such a blah, 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 blah? So yeah, basically after watching that day yesterday, the Tuesday on the Sound Healing Summit, each of the lectures, basically, and we've known all this, but we haven't had the words, we haven't had the outward experience of the people or the words or the theoretical information to put in to make whatever connections, then go, fuck yeah, you know that's exactly what I've been doing, but it's the I that's locked inside. We've not been able to get it out, but it's all coming out in these most creative, abstract, unusual ways through these videos. And when I watch them back, it's like, yes, it's on it. See, that's doing that because of that reason, and that's doing that because of that reason. I get it, and I can say it. But to someone else, it wouldn't make sense. To someone else, it just looks pretty chaotic and intense, and it's too much for them, basically. But there's so much information, healing information put in there of how to self-heal. And in watching that one day of the Sound Healing Summit yesterday, of the 7 lectures, literally, it was like, that's what we do already, that's what we do already, that's what we do already. And this is the amazingness of the body. The body knows how to heal itself. The body is the subconscious, and it's put me through these last 4 years since the seizures, or before I start 2015, so almost 5 years. Because it was like when we started getting into the woods, we lost 6 hours once in the woods, and we started having this shaking, which is like shaking medicine. But I used to call it the uncontrollable. It's almost like controllable epileptic fits. But then I had the seizures and did have an kind of an epileptic fit. But it's the body showing me things. So my body has, and all of it is just information in the electric universe that we live in, that all these different people tap into. They get the information and then they express it outwards. So watching that free Sound Healing Summit lectures, Tuesday lectures, but we did it yesterday, has just been, fuck yeah. This is what my body's been showing me. This is what the outward expressions and all this stuff that's been going on. And now that I've got that outward bit of information, seen other people doing it, and it's come in, it has just been mega and so powerful. And so, yeah, I suppose I just had to share this little journey of the connections, of the awareness, of the a lot calmer, not so manically presented, because we've still got a long way to go. but compared to the amount of physical pain and the amount of mental stress and how unloved we felt and how there was no one around to help us when that other video was out, we are doing so wonderfully. And I am so proud of all my alternate personalities, and I'm so proud of my beautiful mathematic, artistic, scientific brain, of the way we do things and how we've got out of the conventional way of data and recording and structure and been living by the moon cycles, and how it's all coming together. Because I know that we've got just something amazingly beautiful to offer the world now that's so rare and so unique, because we can see the EDS and the gifts of and we can see the fibromyalgia and the gifts, and we can see the POTS and the gifts, and we can see the processing language disorder, the dyslexia, and the gifts it brings, because we can see the autism and the beautiful multidimensional thinking it is in the brain. And yes, it has all these other perceived negative connotations that come with it, that generally come first, because there is that old, deepest collective belief system that life is to suffer. But actually these things are there to make us suffer, and then hopefully when there's all people like me and the people like the sound healing people and other amazingly beautiful, inspiring people that are connected to their body and their mind, to truly and unconditionally and compassionately share that information to the other, that we can heal ourselves, and that it doesn't have to be no pain, no gain. It doesn't have to be done in all these conventional ways that it's been done so far. But by all means, it does not mean to disregard the traditional and disregard all those ways that are there. It means to take all that knowledge and to take all those ways and then to tweak them and convert them into what works for you as an individual, even if that's completely different to everyone else. And then eventually, the 100th monkey effect, collective consciousness, when there's enough individuals that have done that, they call it light workers, they call it all kind of this airy-fairy language. But it's all language, it's all terminology, but it all stems down to energy at the end of the day. So when there's enough people doing it, the 100 monkey effect, a monkey learns how to crack a coconut open with a stone. It shows another one, it shows another one. When 100 monkeys have learnt that, they don't need to show each other how to do it, they just all know. So this is what consciousness is about. Consciousness is about understanding that it is in everything, absolutely everything, because it's energy, and it's how energy vibrates. It's atoms on an atomic physical level, and on a subatomic level, I don't know, is it particles? Not sure, but we're getting sidetracked. But basically, we can all heal ourselves. It's not an easy journey. We cause ourselves our own pain because of the belief systems in collective society and collective consciousness and in our generational trauma that's got passed down. But it doesn't mean that we're to blame. There's no one to blame. There is just what there is. There's the duality of life, but we're stepping up to realise that the duality of life actually is a whole. And it's about perception, because you need the light, you need the dark. If you get too much light, there's too much activity. If there's too much dark, there's too much inertia, stillness. You need the stillness and you need the activity. You need the yin and you need the yang. You don't want too much yang, you don't want too much yin. You don't want too little yang, you don't want too little yin. It's about finding the balance between all aspects of life, internal worlds, external worlds, all aspects of consciousness. And it doesn't start from outside, it starts within, because how we interpret the outside world depends on our internal processing and on how we interpret our internal world. And if you're someone like us, it can be, and you're deaf, blind and dark inside, it can get quite confusing of how to interpret your internal world. But yeah, I'm still on this journey, and we're going to produce everything that's going on in this, and I can just feel, for the first time ever, rather than fascia being ripped apart and jolting, I can just feel this really, it makes us happy, this really smooth, warm, tingly pain going from my scar down the top of my broken collarbone into my left arm. So I can feel that nervous system rewiring. So I'm going to go now. There's a lot of information in this. which is going to be great for us to watch back and whoever else wants to watch it. It's eventually all going to get condensed down. And we're going to give our first 3 courses. There's going to be 13 modules, I think, in total of whatever course we write on this. But the first 3 are going to be free. And there's actually going to be 4 units or sections that are free, maybe 5. But the first 3 units will be included in that, and that will be free. I think there'll be 5. There'll be introduction. There'll be the one that were not the secret one, even though it'll be free, and then there'll be the first 3 units. So there'll be 5 sections given away for free on this course that we start, Shinto Self-Empowerment, the Shinto's yoga experience in loving ourselves, of how no matter how much we want someone else and no matter how much we want to be saved, we can only save ourselves. And it all starts with completely unconditionally loving ourselves and starting to understand ourselves and how we function, how we do things, and that however we function, however we do things is okay. Irrelevant of what anyone else says if they don't understand, because people's assumptions, people's judgments, people's opinions is what's coming out of them, and what comes out of them is just a reflection of what's going on in their internal world, and therefore they hold all those judgments and all those opinions on themselves, whether they're aware of it or not. So yeah, have a beautiful day. Whoever watches this, if they do, it's probably quite long, and I know that we will, and I know that we can do this, I know that we are doing this, and we're fucking awesome, basically. So yeah, much love, the Shinto's yoga experience. Let's learn and grow and play together with Shintos in loving ourselves. Finish. Au revoir. Toodaloo. Oh yeah, because we're about to write an incantation, we are as well, so there's probably information come out on that, and that's what this has all been about too. And I know it's like, it's an attitude of gratitude, an attitude of gratitude, an attitude of gratitude, an attitude of gratitude, a gratitude of attitude, gratitude of attitude, an attitude of gratitude. An attitude of gratitude for what? Those forking tuning forks, those forking tuning forks, the forking tuning forks. Thank fork for those forking tuner forks. It's an attitude of gratitude.